right, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you guys are in. We do have a severe risk that has now taken shape here across the Western Illinois region, as we expected from earlier today. We have quite a significant threat here that has developed, particularly West Illinois here by Burlington area, Aledo, Galesburg, those areas especially need to be on high alert. Also up here into southwest Wisconsin, severe thunderstorm warnings are now in effect here. For the very far southeast portion of the state, there. These are going to be for damaging winds and large hail, but there is also a couple tornadoes possible in those storms. The main focus right now, currently, is down here, just entering the Illinois area, the Illinois state line, should I say. We have the county of Hancock, as well as the county of, what county is this? What is this county? It's not even listed. Henderson. There we go. This county down here, these two storms in particular have produced multiple tornadoes already, some of which have been strong and also large in nature. So we do want to give you guys ample time here to get yourselves situated if you live in the path of these storms. So let's go ahead and take a look at the track of these, animate these very quickly here, moving off to the east-northeast, or really north-northeast. So this county from Aledo, the county up here is going to be called Mercer County. So if you live in Mercer County, Muscatine County, and then also Henderson and Des Moines County there as well, you guys should be in your safe place immediately. There are reports coming in of tornadoes that have touched down. I've seen the pictures myself via Twitter earlier today, about an hour ago, actually. These storms have produced large tornadoes. Not sure if they're the violent, strong type, but they do appear to be that way. And the environment today would support the risk of that happening. So, definitely a threat that you guys need to be paying attention to here in the West Illinois area for the evening. This storm currently does not have any confirmed tornado on it. It did have one about 15 minutes ago. But right now, it just appears to be radar indicated at this point, which is good news. But again, this does have some amount of rotation with it. We do see where this green and where this red meet, just south of Wapello here, near Morning Sun, Oakville. Go ahead and circle it where this bluish green color is meeting this reddish color right there. That is your bit of rotation with these storms. That is, triggering these warnings here. Looking at the correlation coefficient, it's hard to tell if anything's on the ground or not. We don't see debris right now, but this storm is more than likely cycling through today, or cycling through, which means that this storm is likely going to go through a phase where it weakens, the tornado lifts, the mesocyclone, or the atmosphere, or the part of the storm that spins, is not going to produce for about 10-15 minutes, and then it cycles through and it comes back a little bit stronger and tries to put down another tornado. Likely what's going to happen with these storms today, we're going to have those tornadoes on the ground for like 10-15 minutes. They're going to pick up and they're going to go through a cycling phase. They're going to put back down. So we have two areas right now of interest. One up here near Wapello does appear to be a little bit stronger. We also have an area down here near Fort Madison where we have a little bit of rotation picking up on radar here. Both these storms are tornado warned as they're about to cross into Illinois. This one is basically on the state line in the next about 2 minutes. So the Aledo area, the Aledo County, should I say, so Mercer County. So if you live in New Boston, Joy, Buffalo Prairie, Illinois City, Fruitland, Edgington, you guys are in the path of this up near Muscatine County as well. Heading right for Davenport. Unfortunately, Davenport, Iowa is in line directly with this threat. More than likely going to see a few more tornadoes before the night is over, and these are going to be the storms that are going to produce these more than likely. There's an abundance of storm chasers out on these right now, so we do have reports and videos and comments and stuff rolling in across social media with this particular two different storms here. So we do have confidence, and we do have the ability and information to relay those to you guys. And I can tell you, there have been multiple tornadoes today across the entire state of Iowa. So it's now pushing into Illinois, which is why you see us live here, because we cover Illinois. So in this storm here, we see a bit of an inflow notch right here coming into the storm, where the RFD or the rear flank downdrift try to wrap around that storm. So we have inflow winds going in, and we have other winds coming out to meet. We have circulating winds here that can get tornadoes to form. And we see that pretty well here in velocity. We have this inflow coming in, and we have the RFD coming in to meet. And in the middle there, we have what we call sometimes a couplet, but this is more so just rotation, not too big of a couplet with this storm for right now. So just watching this, seeing how it's going to trend here and go from there. But this storm was producing a tornado about 25 minutes ago over here, somewhere in this general area, New London, Danville area. So we'll be here tracking this for a little bit here. I'll go ahead and take a 2-panel look here, just so we have a good idea of what's happening on these storms. We'll go ahead and do radar on the left. We'll go ahead and do our velocity here on the right. So wind is going to be on your right side of your screen. We also do have another radar I have pulled up on the other screen, which I do have it in chat here, where we have a little bit better view. New tornado warning now just been issued. Go ahead and take it back to a one screen here. New tornado warning now for Mercer County, as well as Muscatine County. Areas included are going to be New Boston, Aledo, Reynolds, Buffalo Prairie, Millersburg. This storm is now going to be warned until the still 6 p.m. Central Time, so another 40 minutes. This is going to be moving east-northeast pretty rapidly here at about 50 to 60 miles per hour. The warning here says 45, but we're going to go ahead and say just 50, just call it good and even. So right now the rotation does appear to be quite, it's not weak, but it's also not very strong. So I'm not overly concerned at this point, but you have to bear close watching with this, as you can get a tornado happening here at any time. So new warning here for a tornado is going to be for the counties, again, of Mercer and Muscatine County, as well as central Rock Island County as well, and also southeastern Louisa County in Iowa. So I see. Muscatine County is to the further north. Okay, I see now. So Muscatine County is actually over here, and this side of that black line, and this county is different. So I see. So it's not for Muscatine County. I apologize with that. It's just going to be for those two counties I mentioned in Illinois of Rock Island and also Mercer. We can't forget the storm down here either, because it says also warned, and it's about to cross over into Illinois. Not really seeing much in the way of rotation on this storm on our velocity product here, although that's not going to say it's not happening. It's just at this point in time, I don't see much in the way that would warrant any over concern for anything to be on the ground at this point. We're going to keep it right here on this storm, and we're going to actually take another look on this radar down here. Actually, we're going to zoom in on this radar, so we have that pulled up, and I'm going to add this one back here. Perfect. So the area of interest now will be heading over to the north and a little bit west of New Boston here. I don't see many towns in the path of this, which is good news. Eliza, Petersville, Mannon, you guys are be in the path of this. Buffalo Prairie, Martston, you guys are going to be in line here momentarily, about next 20 minutes or so. If you were to track this off to the east-northeast at about 50 miles an hour, you're going to get impact times of Mannon in 12 minutes, Eliza in 15, Petersville in 15, Millersburg in 20, Buffalo Prairie in 23, Marston in 23, and Hamlet in 27 minutes. And that's factoring at 50 miles per hour with the east-northeast movement. Additional tornado warnings are coming in for Iowa. Not have to worry about that here. These storms will be packing a punch, though, regardless of a tornado or not. Some strong winds, large hail, definitely on the table with these storms as they push off to the east-northeast, and also, again, even further to the north here in southeast Wisconsin, because we do have Wisconsin in our coverage area. Although these storms are not as severe, we're not going to cover these as in depth, but we do have a possibility of a tornado happening With these storms as well, we see a lot of greens and reds in there meeting. We could easily have something tighten up there and produce a tornado. But overall, up in Wisconsin right now, it's a better environment, more so for wind and hail. But still, there's a chance for a tornado up there tonight in the afternoon, or what's left of this evening into tonight hours. So this is the area of interest we're watching very closely here. It is just about to cross into Illinois near New Boston. And we do have the extension there of that tornado warning that has gone in effect here. That's going to be again for Mercer County as well as Rock Island counties. Looking further to the north here along Davenport, these storms will be moving into probably Wisconsin here, maybe clipping the very far northwest portion of Illinois. I think the Illinois threat's going to be mainly tied to these storms down here near Burlington and also Davenport. So these storms will continue on east northeast, but as the sun goes down later on this evening, these should lose intensity. We don't expect these to continue to be severe as they cross towards, say, Indiana. These should weaken. So the threat further to the east ahead of these storms will gradually decline. But right now it is at its peak, I would say, and it will continue to be at its peak over the next hour or two, perhaps a little bit longer, a little bit shorter than that, 1 to 2 hour time frame. But overall, we should see a weakening trend as we head closer to sunset. So we're going to go zoom back in here. We're going to take a look at our correlation coefficient, which is basically just showing us if anything potentially could be on the ground tornado-wise. We would see a little bit of a debris ball there, we call it. We call it a correlation coefficient drop, or a CC drop for short. It'll show up as like a circular little ball where the rotation meets. And this particular storm, I don't see that being the case as of right now. So not too kind of concerned for anything on the ground right now. The rotation on this storm is also, well, the good news is the latest scan here has really broadened out here. But if we were to go back, look at the rotation here, we can see it pick up right here a little bit, but it doesn't really tighten up. It's just kind of hanging out there. It doesn't. You want to see these greens and reds really try to meet here. So if we had, say, like a brighter green color, like right here, and that red color, which is behind this box there. Yeah. So we have like this green color down here, meaning this red color, we'd be more so concerned. But because there's some red there and then some grays all between here, nothing's really meeting with this storm. So the good news here is nothing is tight with this. But we'll see if it cycles through. Likely going to have a cycle or maybe a pass off to the south of this. Sometimes it'll try to pass off where you see the northern rotation area. We call it occluding, and it'll also transfer energy further south, which that could also be happening with this storm. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. Keep an eye on our reflectivity here. So what's likely going to end up happening is a shift to the south with this over the next about 10 to 15 minutes. So good news is no tornado on the ground right now cycling through, but potential there exists for additional tornadoes here as evening goes on. We can actually see the RFD winds on that scan. Go back one. We can actually see where you have this bulge here, kind of like a mini bow echo, like a bowing out. That's our RFD inflow winds right here. That's what's getting your spinning. We have air just kind of colliding together with the RFD coming one way and inflow going the other. That can cause things to spin quite easily there. So that warning is in effect until 6 p.m. Central. Let's go ahead and check on further south here. This is going to be the storm that still doesn't have much in the way of any velocity signatures that would concern us. The warning there is going to expire in 15 minutes or so. So 5:45. Sorry, Central Time, 6:45 Eastern, but this is also Central Time out here. So we'll go ahead and say 5:45 Central. So that's going to be expiring momentarily. Okay. Let's go ahead and pick up this radar here again. These storms are roughly about 40 or so thousand feet 40 to 45,000 feet in the atmosphere. So these are really tall storms, good updrafts, good hail with them, nice healthy storms. And also, just want to point out that if we were to zoom out and go further to the south here, we do have additional development down here in northeastern Missouri. We'll have to keep an eye on that as that's going to push into the area of Illinois here momentarily, or the next hour or so, should I say. So be on alert for these areas down here where we have additional development showing up on Doppler radar here. So this area does appear to be broadening out again. We'll see if it cycles through. I would expect it, honestly, to cycle through, but it's a pretty healthy storm here. So you have a good supercellular look here. We have a kind of like what we call like a hook echo on the back end of this. And we're just kind of waiting for another inflow notch to develop, and then also RFD to wrap around that. So we'll be watching that closely. Right now, it looks pretty loosely organized. So not overly concerned for that at this point. But again, that could cycle through pretty easily in the next about 10 to 15 minutes. So now is a good time to go ahead and move up here to southeast Wisconsin. And we're going to go ahead and look at these storms up here. We don't have a good radar up here really to go off of, unfortunately. So just judging off the what we do have here, all I can really say is gusty winds look really likely along this line here. We see a pretty good gust front in these storms here, which you could see some spin up tornadoes along that line too. But overall, this is going to be a little bit harder to track just because there's no good radar here in the area. We have to go further to the south to get a good radar. But we'll have to keep an eye on this area closely. It's just we don't really have much in the way of data to go off of. So we do have a couple severe thunderstorm warnings here for southeastern Iowa or Illinois. They are warned for 60-mile-per-hour winds, quarter-size hail, and a potential for a tornado. That's going to be for Lafayette and Iowa counties in southeastern Wisconsin, and then also this county for Grant County until 6 p.m. Central as well. It's a really healthy looking storm. The best case scenario here is these storms just turn into hail producers or some wind producers, and the tornado threat gets left behind. But unfortunately, I think we're not out of the woods yet. But if we are, that'd be great news. But for right now, I'm going to say no. We're not just yet. So we'll have to watch this area just to the south of New Boston, where we have this this coloration here on the left side or the right side of your screen here. Just south of New Boston is where we're going to be looking at for the next couple of scans. That'll probably be the new area of interest. We have some chasers who are converging on this storm near Burlington. Unfortunately, we can't take those guys live. They are copywritten, so we can't check in on those publicly. But looks like Brandon Kopic's there, Vince Walty's there. Looks like Chris Hall is also there. So for those of you who follow our page, you probably may have heard of those names before. They're popular storm chasers across the U.S. So they are live streaming currently to Radar Omega. If you guys have the app, you can watch those guys live. But for right now, our chasers are currently sitting today out because of the drive. But we will be active tomorrow for the threat for Indiana and Michigan, or for Ohio and Michigan, sorry. Going to wait for a new scan here to pop in before we just dive into some more data. Let's go ahead and just leave it right here on a 2-panel and see what we can figure out with this. Got some really good winds coming out on the front side of the storm, so This area right here, we're getting some really good velocity on the right side of your screen here. The winds right now in these areas are looking to be roughly probably right around 50 to 60. Yes, there's 58. Uh, right between 50 and 60. So that's borderline severe weather right there. So, regardless of a tornado or not, these storms are producing a lot of wind and likely a lot of hail as well. In fact, we can take our VIL product here. VIL is basically a measure of water droplets in the. Oh, yeah, check that out. This is going to be your hail right here, where you see on the right side of your screen where all. Whoops. Well, we can actually, that works out pretty well. We can go back to this. Perfect. So, this area right here in particular down here near New Boston and Wapello, where all this red and purple and white, that's your maxed out vertically integrated liquid. So basically, this is measuring water droplets in the atmosphere. So anything larger than your typical water droplet or your raindrop is going to show up on this. So it could be larger raindrops for sure, but a signal like this is definitely hail falling here. I'll bet you if you look at our CC as well, you're going to see that hail as well, which, yeah, you're going to see that right there. So that is pretty clear cut that we have some pretty large hail falling with the storm. Now, the warning is a tornado warning here for radar indicated rotation, hail up to a quarter size in diameter, so that'd be 1 inch. So we'll wait for a potential upgrade to that warning to see if that happens. But right now, that's one of two warnings in Illinois. The other one's going to be down here near Burlington, although their only real threat right now be in Illinois would be besides Burlington, be Gladstone, Biggsville, Aquaka, Bald Bluff, Little York, Eleanor. You guys would be in the immediate threat of this secondary storm. But this secondary storm looks like it might be splitting here, or it might be trying to at least either split or absorb a storm. It's kind of weird. So we're not seeing much in the way of any increased velocity. They just shrunk that warning here. But this is going to expire in roughly 9 minutes. So 5:45, this will expire. And that should be probably the end of that warning. I don't see a reason why I should continue this, but again, they make the decisions, not me. I'm just giving you my my take on this, given personal experience and stuff like that. So, and this wind up here on this storm continues to improve. It might be trying to turn into a more of a linear type of storm, which would be great news. Linear would mean basically just a wind and hail threat and very little tornado threat, which right now, honestly, this is what it's looking like it's turning into. These have merged into one big line. So this might be trying to, like, we had individual cells back here. We had two dominant cells down here by Burlington, up here by Wapello. And as you animate it, now we have a big long line of storms. So that tells me that this is transferring more so from a supercell into a linear complex like a squall line, which could still pose a tornado risk. But at this point in time, I think the wind risk on this is going to be dominant for the time being. Again, I don't see much in the way of rotation. I do want to pull up radar scope so I can look at the storm relative velocity here to get a better idea of what's happening in there. I'm sure that's probably going to be like a QLCS type of look. So we'll take a peek at that very quickly here and see if that shows anything. Kind of does. Kind of doesn't, though. Let's go ahead and take that, though. Let's go ahead and stop share and present. There we go. So this is your warning. It's kind of hard to make out with all these red colors here, but your warning box is going to be right here. I'll go ahead and draw it for you in blue. That's your warning box for the tornado warning. And if you look, here's your gust front, but here's some off color near Eliza. We'll have to keep an eye on that. We just got a report near Pleasant Grove on that southern storm of trees uprooted, snapped, or a roof blown off. That's just a spot report coming in. That was as of about 20 minutes ago via public report. So we'll check on that here on social media. But overall, this is going to be very interesting to watch how this develops, because when squall lines happen, we get quick spin up tornadoes along the leading edge of these types of squall lines. So this went from a supercell and now looking like more of a linear threat, which is good news because it's heading right into Davenport, Iowa, which is a large population. We're talking population here. Go ahead and map this out. Population of Davenport in the path of this storm. I'm going to take back radar so you guys can know where I'm talking about here. So here's Davenport, which is the largest city around here. And this tracks off into Davenport. The population on this would be roughly 450,000 people. So we're not in rural Kansas or rural Iowa, so to speak. Kansas is just a term. But we're not in the rural parts of the countryside anymore. We're heading into a bigger populated area. So, excuse me. If this can stay more of a wind and hail threat, that would be amazing. You guys got an updated warning to the south of this. Looks like they extended the severe warning. Actually, they extended it and also issued a new severe warning here. I'll go ahead and pull this up for counties. Wait for it to pop in on my end, but looks like it's going to be Henderson County, as well as Mercer County and potentially Warren County as well. I'll wait for it to populate in here, and I'll give you guys the official counties here in just a second. In fact, we can go ahead and take this. So Radar Omega, which is what's on your screen now. Well, not now, but this is GR2, a different product here. It's a little bit slower to load in, but we'll see a box fill in here momentarily, and I'll go ahead and read those off for you. But that warning would be for 60-mile-per-hour winds, 1-inch hail, as well as a possible tornado. So what happens sometimes on severe warnings, we're not talking tornado, we're talking severe. At the very bottom of those warnings, if you scroll down to the bottom text, sometimes they'll list hazards. It'll say 60-mile-per-hour winds, 1-inch hail, and sometimes it'll mention the possibility of a tornado. Most times it won't, but sometimes it does. So it's always important to be aware of severe storms. Even though they're not tornado warnings, they can still be capable of producing tornadoes. It's just at that point in time, when they issued the warning, the threat at that point in time was not very high enough to issue the official tornado warning, if that makes sense. So this is going to be for Henderson, Des Moines County, as well as Mercer and Warren. So yes, the counties that I mentioned before are all in that warning. So Mercer, Henderson, as well as is that Louisa County as well? I'll pull that up here. Henderson, Warren, Mercer, Des Moines, and Louisa counties. That's going to go until 6:30 p.m. Central. It says the hazard will be 60-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-sized hail. It also mentions the possibility of a tornado. So there you have it. Checking back over here on the other radar here. Still not seeing much in the way of any rotation. Again, that could change. Right now, it looks to be more of a linear, like a line segment type of threat, which would be more hail and wind dominant with a lower chance of a tornado. But at this point in time, it does not appear to be that concerning. It was concerning about, I'd say about 35 to 40 minutes ago, it was concerning as Iowa had multiple tornadoes, one or two of which that appeared to be quite large and potentially strong. We'll wait to see if those tornadoes actually hit anything so we could get a rating on it. But otherwise, so far, I've heard of minimal damage, mostly just tree damage and power pole snaps, stuff like that, which is good news. But I'm sure probably somewhere out there, unfortunately, somebody's property did probably get hit somewhere in the region. So the good news is for right now, this is turning into a more linear threat. The bad news is we do have more storms to the south, and the environment out ahead of these storms would support still severe weather all across the state of Illinois tonight. So this threat is just getting underway for Illinois, but if this can turn into a more linear threat, that'd be the best case scenario. Looks like we do have additional severe storms still ongoing up here in South Wisconsin. Still warned here for just severe, although we do see some indication of a gust front in here. It's really hard to make out because radars up in this area are quite spaced. So we really don't have much in the way of data to go off of, unfortunately, for Wisconsin. But we see all these greens and reds are meeting here. That is going to be your gust front of these storms. And along that gust front, we could have potential for spin up tornadoes all along this line. It's not just this area. It'll go back further. You can kind of make it out all the way back down here into the border of Illinois and Wisconsin. All along that line has potential for a spin up tornado. But regardless of any tornadoes, it's going to be gusty winds and potentially large hail as well. This area looks like it could have something going on with that. But again, it's super hard to make out here as the radar beams. This particular region here is very spaced out with radar, so we don't have good data to go off of, unfortunately, in that region. So we'll keep an eye on that. The main threat's still down here in west central Illinois, just about to move into, they are actually in the state now, just south of Davenport, heading towards Davenport, Iowa. Also going to be moving towards the Galesburg area as well. So those are two bigger names: Geneseo, Davenport, Princeton, Lafayette. These are going more so northeast at this point. But you guys have additional development further south across northern Missouri. We have to watch now, as that will also begin to strengthen and also push northeastward with time. Still not seeing much of anything to be concerned about with rotation wise. So, oops. It does look pretty healthy though for winds. I'll tell you that much. There's probably a good straight line wind damage going to be coming out of this storm, or this entire line really, from Davenport all the way down to Burlington. Jordan, we already posted a forecast for Michigan in depth, so I'd suggest go ahead and read that. Nothing's changed in the past 2 hours from that forecast. I'd say the bigger threat out of these storms right now is going to be up near the South Davenport metro area. So Buffalo, Prairie, Reynolds, Joy, Illinois City. Those particular areas look to be the most gusty up here on this particular storm, where that tornado warning is still in effect. It expires in 15 minutes. So at this point in time, I don't see anything on radar that would suggest this being tornadic at this point or imminent tornadic. Just looks like a lot of. All right, just got a new warning somewhere. Okay, looks like they dropped that warning down here further south. I'm not sure where that new warning got issued for. It might be Iowa or it could be Wisconsin as well. I don't see anything new on my screen, so we're just going to go ahead and assume nothing happened. I will get it on my phone here momentarily, wherever that was issued. And I'll tell you here in a second if anything would be for the Illinois area here or Wisconsin. I'm scrolling Twitter here behind the scenes to see if I can find any damage reports. And so far, I have not seen anything. Usually, they're one of the first tweets that I see in my feed are usually damage reports. But I don't see anything here that indicates anything significant happened. All right, there's one near Salem, Iowa. Looks like a roof got torn off a house. That's the only one I see here. Looks like a silo got demolished. A barn got destroyed. So luckily, not seeing much in the way of significant damage so far. Not saying there is or isn't, but for right now, it doesn't appear to be that significant so far, which is great news. Most of Iowa out there is rural areas, so very spaced out farmsteads are usually the norm when you get away from populated areas here in Iowa. So luckily, at this point in time, nothing significant has come in. But still, nonetheless, these storms have produced tornadoes all day today. So the concern and the awareness level should be the same, regardless of if these storms continue to show signs of weakening. The environment's still there to support tornadoes. What's up, Dane? I know a lot of our chasers here and our followers who follow this page are based out of Ohio, Indiana, or Michigan. So I know Illinois, Wisconsin is not too big of a populated of our following. So if you guys are watching from Illinois, let me know in the comments, or Wisconsin, or just overall, let me know where you guys are watching from. I'm kind of curious. We're going to try and grow the channel here to all 5 states. This is just beginning here. So if you guys know anybody who lives in the path of these, be sure to share the stream with those guys. I'm sure they would appreciate having a heads up. I also know many other chasers are live. I know Ryan Hall's live covering this as well. So there's other sources who do cover this live, but this is just our take on it. We try to be as informative as possible. So overall, I think the strongest storm is still up here near the area of Buffalo Prairie, Illinois City, heading into Davenport metro area. So I think Davenport, if you live in Davenport or know people who live in Davenport, you guys should be either getting inside at the very least, if not into safe zones. I don't see any signs right now of any tornadoes, but the wind risk with this would be quite significant, as well as large hail with this storm. And also with these storms, tornadoes can spin up pretty quickly. So that risk is on the table. Right now, I don't see anything that would indicate that, but this could continue to strengthen it into Davenport. So I'll keep an eye on that very closely here. I got 2 people here from Wisconsin. So the only areas currently in Wisconsin that are in any concern is going to be these 2 counties down here. I'll give you the counties here in a second. Lafayette, and is that it? Really, that's it. There's 2 counties there. All right, one second. Lafayette and Iowa counties. Those are the only 2 counties of concern right now. As the evening goes on, these will weaken slowly, not fast. They're going to be there for another hour or 2 at the very least. But as these move northeast, these will lose strength. But as of right now, along this line here, there's potential for damaging winds, large hail, but also brief spin up tornadoes, where we have this gust front here where these reds and greens are meeting all along this area, even further to the south there, all the way down here towards Spring Green. This is the area of interest along this gust front here, which may produce a few quick spin up tornadoes. So that's going to push off to the east northeast areas like Reedsburg, Wisconsin Dells, New Lisbon, Tomah, Wisconsin Rapids, further downstream, Stevens Point. Looks like it's mostly rural areas out here with a lot of inland lakes. So the good news is not too populated out here. These should miss the more populated areas over here from Milwaukee, Oshkosh, Fond du Lac. Eventually they'll get over there, but I think the risk up there is a little bit lower overall than it is currently further south into your west. So out ahead of this line, though, there is a risk, but this will weaken with time as we get towards sunset. No problem, Heather. Seeing this area right here, there's no warning currently in effect for Davenport, whether it's severe or tornado, but I'm sure they'll probably issue one here momentarily. I would have to assume so. The velocity on this is looking quite good for at least some large hail at the very least. Yeah, that's a pretty large hail right there. So I'm kind of curious why they're not issuing anything. They have the reasons, obviously. They have more data than what we have here. So they have their reasoning, but an educated guess would be a new warning incoming here for the Davenport metro area at the very least here. So we'll see how that tracks. Further south here, this one is actually looking like it's trying to get more organized here near Oquaka. We'll have to watch this area closely down here, as this area right here is looking a little bit more interesting than it was a few minutes ago. Just got a new warning issued. There you go for Davenport. That's to be expected. 1 inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. That's going to be for Davenport metro area. So Rock Island County is the only county in Illinois under that warning. Otherwise, it's going to be Scott and Muscatine counties in Iowa underneath that warning until 6:45 Central. So quarter-size hail as well as 60-mile-per-hour winds are likely with that storm. So Davenport Metro, a population of that warning is probably going to be roughly right around 300,000 to 400,000 people. So pretty populated area out that direction, which is what we don't want to see. But luckily, at this point in time, nothing on the storm looks tornadic at this point in time. That could change, but the good news is, for right now at least, the tornado threat does appear to be quite low with the Davenport storm. So we're going to go ahead and take a radar back here. Go ahead and zoom back down further south. I'll go ahead and get this set up here. I do want to highlight that potential, which I was mentioning before. This area right here on the south storm, if we were to zoom out for you to guys get a better idea where this is at. This is Henderson County as well as Des Moines County. This is going to be the storm where you have this little hook echo just to the west of Oquawka. In fact, I can probably tell you guys a little bit better. I'll show you guys a little bit better on this radar. So we have this storm here. Down here near Oquawka, we have a little bit up here is your main supercell look. On the back end here, we have like this little squiggly area here. We could try to see something happen along this area right back in here. My experience would probably tell me somewhere roughly right about here or so. We are seeing some mixed velocity signatures coming in there. We'll have to watch that closely for the upcoming couple scans here to see how that trends. Right now, there is a little bit of rotation, but not a lot. Let's go ahead and check out our radar scope on that storm. There's your spotter report of wind damage. There's actually another one here too. Trees uprooted. But this is the storm we're talking about here. Let's take a look at our velocity. So we had the velocity we just saw there with all that coloration. Storm relative gives us a little bit better look here. And that tells us there's nothing too much there right now, but that still needs monitoring here. So that's a good tool to have in the background there. We'll leave that right there, right about there, and we'll just come back to that when needed. Any chance of a derecho storm in Iowa today? No, I don't think so. Dane, the ingredients today don't really support derecho. You need a lot more upper-level winds and a lot more instability reservoir. And then we don't have that today with this storm. The upper-level support for that is just not there. Tiffany says Indiana. Ashley says Michigan. Kevin from Michigan. Heather is from Wisconsin. Tracy's from Wisconsin. Dane is from Northwest Ohio, the Lima area. So we got all the states checking in except Illinois. And we're covering Illinois. So go figure. That's okay, though. We'll grow our audience as we get later in the year. What's the weather look like for Detroit tomorrow? So I would highly suggest heading over to Michigan Storm Chasers page. I just posted a forecast on that earlier today, about an hour or two ago. It's really in depth, but overall synopsis is a slight risk, level 2 out of 5. All hazards are possible, more so speaking of hail and wind threats. Low chance for a tornado possible across the risk area. But if you haven't already, go back and read that discussion. It is the pin post on Michigan Storm Chasers page. And this is a signature you don't want to see. That, my friends, is a lot, and I mean a lot of wind. Take our inspector tool here. That is approaching 65 miles per hour on the winds heading into West Davenport. Yeah, that's going to topple a few trees there. keep an eye on that. Yeah, it's just getting stronger now. So Bluegrass and Buffalo. This is Iowa, just across the border. The border is literally right here. So this is about a mile or two outside of Illinois, but still, anybody watching from the Iowa area, at Iowa, wow, that's a large area. From the Des Moines. I need to Davenport. There we go. West Davenport. So areas like Bluegrass, Buffalo, Jamestown, Little Groves, Blackhawk, Petersburg, Walcott, anywhere in between here. You guys are going to be under the gun for some insane winds. Potentially winds up to 70 miles per hour, I'd say possible with these storms. The warning box does say 60 mile per hour winds, but this has increased significantly over the last couple scans. We actually, when the warning got issued back here, this is what it looked like. We only had about 50 or so on radar, and it's just continued to strengthen here. So these are probably likely upwards of 70 mile per hour winds heading into West Davenport. It luckily looks to miss the exact downtown, but West Davenport, downtown area like Blackhawk and probably the West Metro is going to get into this insane winds here. So if you guys are in Davenport or know people in Davenport, give them a text, get them inside. Not necessarily a tornado here, so I wouldn't say take shelter, go to your basement, nothing like that. It's just say get indoors and get away from windows with this storm. You don't want to be outside and either get a golf ball in your head of a hailstone, but also you don't want to see a tree get toppled on you. And these are winds that are going to topple trees. That's going to be, again, for Scott and Muscatine counties in Iowa, as well as Rock Island County here in Illinois. Now, this area down here is starting to get interesting again as well. We'll take a peek down here real quick. Let's go ahead and take our radar scope back. I'm just going to peek at that real quick. I think that southern storm, we have to watch that one closer. Just because it's by itself right now. And it does have an interesting look to it where we could have a little bit of a hook echo trying to form. It's not organized by any means, but it definitely does have some interesting velocity signatures. Also a good look on reflectivity here. So looking back at the storm on radar scope, let's take a peek at our storm relative. Still not much there, but still interesting nonetheless. Whoops. There we go. So good news for now is these storms are staying non-tornadic. Bad news is the wind threat and hail threat is increasing as these storms decide to merge together. Okay, looks like we have a tornado warning now for Davenport. Or what is this? Is this an old? No. I'm not sure why it's not showing up on my screen here. Is it on radar scope? Yeah, it is. So for some reason, Radar Omega is not showing it, but there is now a tornado warning for Davenport. Just got issued. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Bluegrass or 8 miles west of Davenport, moving northeast at 40. Radar indicated rotation. I don't see that, honestly, on my end, but when you have these bulges here, what happens when you have a big surge of wind that goes out like that, the air is going to rush behind it on both sides. So when you have air kind of rushing back in here, you can have on the, actually, you might be seeing it right here. When you have the air rushing back on the back side of these, sometimes when you have this air rushing out like this, here, I'll help you guys here, out like this, the air comes back and rushes around like this. On the north side of these bulges, sometimes you can get some types of rotation that try to curve back in on themselves. So if there's going to be a tornado, it's going to be up here, basically over Highway F65 here, about to cross Highway 280. Let's check our CC drop here. And nothing. But if there's going to be anything on the ground, it's going to be more than likely right in this area here. So that's a little bit more of a development. Now, this radar here does not have a tornado warning on it. So what we're going to do with this is we are going to X this out. We're going to bring up our other radar to run this full screen here. We're going to share this. All right, we're going to X that out. We're going to bring up the other radar behind the scenes. All righty, let's get this up and going here. Technology is only as good sometimes. All right, that looks a bit better. And now we're going to reload Radar Omega to see if that pops in. It is not. All right. Well, we're gonna screw that idea. All right, we're gonna take this off. We're gonna present the screen back again for GR2. A bit different of a radar here. We can't really zoom into the road level, but we do have this. It's better overall than radar scope to look at, so we'll just keep it on this one. What's up, Pamela? Just tuning in. Wanted to know about the Crystal Lake and Schwamberg area. So Schwamberg right now, that's going to be northern Illinois or northern Chicago area, if I'm not mistaken. You are in a small risk later on tonight. It's not a very large risk at all. Do be prepared, though, for gusty winds, small hail at the very least, and then potential later on tonight for a tornado, but I don't think that potential is very high. That really is focused more so right now across West Illinois and perhaps Central Illinois, but over there in the Chicago metro, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Or North Chicago, should I say. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a 2-panel on this. I can't draw on this either, so to kind of watch where my mouse is, but when we have this bulge of air rushing outward like this, we have that air kind of rushing back in. And right in this area right here is the area we're watching for a tornado possible. And we're going to watch our debris signature or debris ball here very closely as this is very interesting for sure. In fact, what we're going to do now is a little bit more so confusing, but it helps us recognize these threats a lot more. We can take a 4-panel look at this and get a whole spectrum at once. I'm going to take a look back here at the southern storm here. The southern storm near Keysburg and Oquaka does look to be really gusty at this point. I don't see anything tornadic with that storm, but just some large hail, gusty winds that could be severe in nature. That's moving still east at 40, and that warning is still in effect for Warren, Des Moines, and Louise counties, as well as Mercer County until 6:30. I do want to see if Radar Omega is back up because that is what I'm really more so interested in at this point because we can get down to a road level on that. We'll keep that centered though. Schamberg. All right, Pamela, I apologize. I am from Michigan. So I'm going to more than likely botch and butcher city pronunciations across the region. It's my specialty, but I apologize. Still not seeing much in the way of anything that would indicate this is on the ground. Waiting for a new scan. I could see the potential there for sure. I could see why they warned that. I think it's actually a good warning. But at this point in time, I don't see anything. It's basically headed right for the airport radar there, where you see the KDVN right here. This storm is heading, this rotation area is heading right basically for the radar. So we'll see if that radar can withstand some gusty winds here. Sometimes they'll go down or they'll shut down the radar during these types of storms. So we'll see if it goes out. Our next closest radar is going to be more than likely ILX in central Illinois or KMX out of Wisconsin. There's no other good radar in the area. If this radar goes down, we're kind of screwed, so to speak. Just get extra nasally with your accent, you'll be there. I'm from Michigan. I don't have an accent. They can talk about accents all day. Pennsylvania, they have an accent. Wisconsin, you guys have an accent. Indiana, Ohio, usually okay. Michigan, no accent. All right, I think we are safe to hop off this 4 panel back into a 2 panel at least. But here's your radar, where that hole is, where you see the kind of like an airspace there. That's your radar, and your winds are basically on top of the radar. So we'll see what happens here. Overall, good news though. We'll take back Radar Omega here. Still don't have that tornado warning on Radar Omega, so it's not, so to speak. I don't like to use it because the data is not, current, but the radar is. So we can just take a look at around the area here. So first and foremost, this storm near Davenport heading into Kelowna here, basically going to ride the Illinois border for a while. So we may not have to worry about that storm too much. But these storms down here have formed into the line that we've kind of expected it to, from Burlington all the way down here towards Kirksville, Missouri, La Plata. This is the area of interest we'll be watching into the evening hours. The great news is they don't appear to be tornadic, but the bad news is um, we just got a new something or other warning issued, probably up here again for this. Yeah, it looks like they issued this. Yeah, so this is going to be for Lafayette County, Greene County, Iowa County, and Dane County in south central Wisconsin. This is going to be for 50 mile per hour winds, so not severe for the winds, and then quarter size hail is your concern with this storm as that moves it to the northeast. But with these storms, though, they'll probably congeal, and at that point, it become a dominant wind risk. So, great news: most of the tornadoes today, if not all of them, stayed out in Iowa. Bad news: we have about 4 or 5 more hours of severe weather to go. So the two main storms are going to be this one right here. It turns into a nice bow echo with this one. This is currently warned for severe. There's not a tornado warning on that, but that warning is in effect here for the next couple of minutes. Tornado is tagged as possible. 15 more minutes on that warning, and that's going to be for 60 mile per hour wind gust as well as quarter size hail heading towards the Aledo, Viola, Millersburg areas. Second warning is a severe and tornado warning for Rock Island County. However, most of this is going to be over in Iowa in Davenport Metro. It does have a tornado warning on it, as you can see here at the red box. Sorry, this one right here. This red box right here. Overall, though, I don't see any rotation on radar. It is directly over the radar site. So we'll wait a few minutes here to see what it looks like on the outside of that. Data kind of gets conglomerate miss while it's over the radar. So we'll have to come back to that here in a few minutes. But overall, that risk is mainly for damaging winds and large hail. But overall, this risk is turning, I think, in my opinion, more so to a wind risk. But with this squall line, we do have potential to have spin up tornadoes out ahead of the squall line. So we'll have to watch that close into the evening. But with that being said, given the tornado threat at this point has subsided, I'm going to look to hop off here momentarily. I do have a live stream scheduled at 8 o'clock for the Michigan page. So I'll be back on there in about 45 minutes. So, and I got to eat yet as well. So I don't want to be on here too much longer. Looks like the overall risk for tornadoes in Illinois is lowering at this point, not zero, but from what we saw about an hour and a half ago in Illinois or Iowa, This is a lot more subdued, which hopefully it stays this way. I'm from Minneapolis. I can almost see Great Lake from my house. Can you add Minnesota? We have an accent too. Minnesota has an accent? I don't think so. I don't think so. If you're talking about adding Minnesota for weather, we can talk about Minnesota briefly here. Minnesota's not in our coverage area, but up there is just going to be some scattered light rain showers and some thunderstorms. Now, I wouldn't expect to be a severe risk up there. We can overlay the risk actually. Yeah, so your risk basically stops at the border of Wisconsin and Iowa there. So, not concerned. I couldn't tell if you were asking for the accent, if you were asking to include Minnesota in our coverage. But either way, I got you covered. I'm really curious why they didn't pop that tornado warning in on Radar Omega. It kind of annoys me. It's such a good app, but it's so clunky. We'll have a good idea here in about 2 minutes what's coming out of the Davenport radar. It's still up and running, which is good news. So likely didn't have anything too strong heading into Davenport, which is great news. But again, that storm is directly over that radar site still. So we'll have a good idea coming out of this in about 2 minutes. We're just now seeing that area of stronger winds on the other side of this radar here. So it's green going in, red going out. So red is going away from the radar, green is coming in. So when you have these winds coming towards it, this is your wind velocity here. A good teaching lesson for you guys here as well. When you're looking at radar and stuff like that. So the green is going toward, this is going to move into towards the radar. And once it comes out of the radar, it turns red. So that's going away. So when these colors meet like that, where red and green meet, that's the rotation. Stuff going towards, stuff going away, meets, spins. Make sense? So a great animation there of how we look for like rotation and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. So on that side of the radar, it's green, and it comes out red. You may say, well, is this rotation back here with green and red meeting? Well, no, because green is going towards, so this is going this way, and red's going away. If it was opposite, if green was on this side and red was on this side, it'd be rotation. Hope that makes sense. I know it can be confusing for you guys, but we always take a little bit of time to teach a little bit about weather radar and stuff like that. So we hope to educate as well. Overall, though, this threat for tornadoes does appear to be on the decline, in my opinion. I'm not going to say it's over, but it's definitely not as high as it was in Iowa, for sure. Where in Wisconsin will the worst damage be done, you think? All right, let's go ahead and check that out over on Radar Omega. So right now, if you look at the radar, this is your area of concern. None of these storms, except the very tail end of this, is only severe. So at this point in time, I say anywhere to the north and to the east of this line, which would roughly put it, where you guys live in Wisconsin. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this. All the way up here. All the way up here. So Madison, why does it do that? I didn't want that. All right, ahead of this line. So areas like Madison could get some damage with these storms, although they're not really severe at this point, mainly for hail. So I don't think much in the way of damage should be expected tonight in Wisconsin. But this is going to be your main line of concern. So Sun Prairie, Madison, Wisconsin Dells, New Lisbon, Mauston, Wisconsin Rapids, perhaps. This should weaken as it traverses to the north. So I wouldn't expect too much in the way of severe weather tonight in Wisconsin. It's a possibility. I think the threat for hail is definitely up there. But overall, this is going to be the main concern with this line. Where exactly, what area do you live in? I can check for your area if you want me to specifically. And this warning is only for large hail. So, okay, so you're in Mouston, which is right here. So we look at our velocity. There could be some gusty winds. In fact, there's your gust front just off to your south there. So as soon as this passes you in the next like 10, 15 minutes, you should be clear for severe weather. I wouldn't expect the other lines down here further to the south to come up just because the instability is going to be overturned there. I wouldn't honestly expect anything past this line for you. But with this line, some gusty winds, that's about it. I don't see anything severe at all for you. So you should be good. Just some lightning. There's actually a lot of lightning off to your south. They're working your way. So it'll be pretty loud. Maybe some small hail in there. Not seeing much on the hail, just a little bit of a return there near Reedsburg. So probably pea-sized hail. But after that line goes through, you should be good. And it should be windiest here where this line is about to cross to you. So where these greens and reds are meeting, that's where the gustiest winds are happening. So the worst will be past you here in about 10, 15 minutes. There we go. We're getting the return of the reds coming out of the radar here. And this is extremely close to the ground. Let's go ahead and pull this up here. So this radar is right here, literally. And these reds here are kind of bright. This is only 150 feet, 150 feet off the surface. Usually on weather radar, we cover these types of events. We're talking 4, 5, 6,000 feet off the surface. So when you get close to the radar like this, and you're getting returns there of 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, that's gusty. That deserves that warning because these are on the surface happening. So, although I don't see rotation anymore, there is still a tornado warning in effect. I see another one just came in here. Another warning came in somewhere. Zoom out here. Extension just to the west of Madison looks like just got issued. This is going to be for 60 mile per hour winds, just west of Madison, Wisconsin there. And again, this is really hard to tell where that is actually at because the radar gap here is not good. We don't have that great of data down here by Madison. No problem, Carly. But yeah, that's a synopsis. I don't really see much in the way of anything happening tornadic wise at this point in time. Again, that could change very quickly, especially there in Illinois where those storms are starting to move up into the area. That's the best environment for right now. Otherwise, this is likely going to be on the downtrend as we head towards sunset. Got some showers and storms popping out ahead of these lines here in north central Illinois here, crossing more so into northwest Indiana, probably here next couple hours. Additional storms down here. These are not in that great of an environment. The better environment's lagging behind these storms. So I'd only expect only a very isolated chance at severe weather with these storms across south central Illinois. Overall, the risk is going to be tied back here with this line. And that just got extended now. So Whiteside County now included in a severe thunderstorm warning. Says wind gust up to 60 miles per hour. So that would be pretty much warranted given that we just talked about that wind speed coming out of the radar in Davenport is reading very close to the ground and is reading velocities here of around 50 to 60 miles per hour. So we're seeing that pretty close to the ground. So that's going to be extended to the north here. There's your gust front. There's your warning box here in yellow and your storm motion as well. So you're heading off toward Comanche, Lowmore. That's a weird name, Lowmore. McCausland, Princeton, Clinton, Fulton. You guys are all in that warning box. For Illinois, only areas would be Clinton, Fulton, and the Garden Plain, Oliver. Go ahead and say Newton Corners as well. Then Princeton there as well. So that's all I see for that warning. Checking back up here into the Mouston area there for Carly. I don't know if she's still watching or not, but the gust front is basically over the city right now. So whatever you're seeing right now is going to be the worst of it. I'm not concerned for Mouston for anything tornadic or severe wise in terms of wind. Just not seeing that right now. But your worst is about Overtown. Got some gusty winds happening down there. Gusty winds happening down here by Viola, by Aledo as well. That warning is also in effect, but these are all just warnings for wind and hail. So at this point, I think it's safe to hop off here for now. I don't see anything on radar that signifies tornadic activity is imminent. I also have to eat here and do a live stream for the Michigan page. So with that being said, I'm going to hop off here. I appreciate you guys watching. Do me a favor and hit the like button before you head out. But otherwise, this risk is going to continue mostly for large hail and damaging winds as we head into west central Illinois through the evening. This should gradually decline as it moves more so toward the Indiana border. So that should be where the severe weather stops, at least. Maybe just a little bit pouring into West Indiana, but that's a low risk at this point. Up here in Wisconsin, with this line of storms here, I'd expect there to be gusty winds, small hail, maybe some large hail isolated in there. I wouldn't rule out a tornado or two possible on this line, but overall, it's a better environment for the further to the south, so I don't expect that to happen. At least it's not a very high threat, at least. So, with that being said, I think it's safe to hop off here. And if anything else happens tonight that's significant, I will hop back on here and give you guys the coverage. So, I appreciate you guys watching. You guys stay safe. And if you guys live in the path of these storms across West Illinois and central Wisconsin, you guys be safe and make sure you take all warnings seriously.